Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the farm. Another beautiful night out here. We are in the middle of September, September 17th to be exact. Weather's still beautiful. It was about 77 degrees today. Picture perfect. It's cool at night. And really what I wanted to do tonight is give you one of those September update videos, put that out for you, show you what's going on. And let me tell you, there's, as always, a lot going on. Anything from the 13 piglets here behind me, to water issues, to rogue chickens. We've stumbled upon a little bit of a drought here, as you guys probably can see by the pigs kicking up a ton of dust. And we'll talk about all that tonight. Oh yeah, broken sheep shelter, a new sheep shelter that we got in, and all sorts of other things, some other plans. So stick with us, we'll walk around. Hope you guys enjoy these, but I like to get these out about once a month and just kind of walk with you and really show you what's going on here on our farm. So we'll start here in the dusty pig pasture. You can see, wow, they are just kicking dust up like crazy. That just shows exactly what I alluded to in the beginning, how dusty it is and how dry it is. Pretty crazy. It's been an interesting summer, we'll say. We started out this summer with a bit of a drought, not knowing what we'd have in terms of pasture. We got a ton of rain, everything came back to life, and here we are. I can't even remember the last time that we got this substantial rain. So needless to say, instead of a mud pit, which it normally would be when you get a lot of rain, the pigs are pretty much in a dust field. Not the end of the world for them, but it also poses a lot of challenge elsewhere. So we'll show you that here in a little. But anyway, we got our 13 piglets, putting on a bunch of size already, and they are definitely a lot more lively than what they were, a few weeks ago. Even when I gave you the 2-week update last week, a lot more energy. Crazy at this point. They are I believe almost 4 weeks old at this point. Already eating food. You can see here, kind of nibbling away. So as far as our pigs, our feeders at least, they are starting to put some weight on. I am looking into I guess more of a scientific approach to feed, looking to add a little more protein to their diet, get a little more weight and lean meat on their carcass. What I've been finding is the importance of lysine in their diet. So we are looking to get some of that. It basically comes out to a total percentage of the protein content. We'll get into that on a later date. I want to kind of think it through and kind of tell you guys what we're going to do with that, but definitely something we're figuring out as well. And again, these are smaller hogs, so it might not make a huge difference from what we're kind of doing right now, but it's at least worth a shot. So we'll kind of figure out, vary their feed up a little bit and see what kind of results we yield at that point, because obviously in the future we do want to become as efficient as possible. I talk about getting free brewer's grain and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to convert your feed into usable product, usable meat. So the more efficient you can get, obviously, the better you're going to be there. But anyway, we're not here to give you a science lesson tonight. Let's check our fence and see what we got going on here. So for whatever reason, with how dry it's been, we've been getting really hot readings on our fence, which is great. As the pigs kind of decimate this new paddock and they're foraging, the last thing we want them to do is try to get out. We did have a breakout about 2 weeks ago, simply just broke off one of our wooden gates. It's gonna happen sometimes with pigs. It's the nature of the beast. You guys that have pigs out there, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. They're gonna find a way eventually. It's more so a matter of limiting that, and a hot fence is definitely gonna help you do so. So if I can even get my grounding rod into the ground with how dry it is, it's like concrete. We'll go ahead, we'll get a reading here. And I mean, this is crazy, guys. It's bone dry. The ground is rock hard. Now, we've obviously had growth throughout the summer. So, there is areas of this fence. It's a large perimeter fence, as a lot of you guys know that have followed along. There's definitely some stuff growing on it. This area here is very clear, but to get 9,500 volts, I don't know, it blows my mind. It's the hottest reading we've got to this point. There's literally no moisture in the ground, which, is kind of counterintuitive to how fencing typically works. But here we are, we got a hot fence, and I've seen it, definitely work on these pigs to the point where you know, they hit it and you see a spark on their nose. Obviously, you know, that's the goal of this fencing is to keep them in. So don't worry, it doesn't hurt them that bad. It more so just scares them, and pigs are smart animals. They know not to test it for at least, well, I guess a day or so. They're always going to be curious. They're always going to test it, but it doesn't hurt them that bad, guys. So if you're curious about that, don't worry. You can't really go too hot. I mean, obviously, yes, you could, but you're really not going to run into that with, you know, a solar energizer or even an AC energizer. It's just not going to happen. So don't worry about that. So in the meantime, we are going to go up and I am going to show you what's going on with our pasture. I mean, literally just about, oh man, a week and a half ago, we were so green. I think I put out a couple videos on the sheep pasture, you know, lush green pasture, something that I was really happy about. And eventually when we get over to that side, it has definitely taken a different look. Now, admittedly, I haven't been up in here for a few days, I mean, look how dusty this is, guys. But I haven't been up here in a couple days, and likewise, it's also getting pretty brown. Being that this hasn't been grazed, it's not too bad, but definitely not what it was, you know, a couple weeks ago. And as we get a little closer in here, you can see that, you know, a lot of the regrowth has just kind of stopped, which definitely poses a challenge for later in the fall, and then more specifically over the winter. You know, we start getting some colder weather, well, all the growth is going to be done. And usually what I can do is I can get a lot of grazing at least through the end of the year, you know, before we really start to get snow on this pasture. And then obviously we can turn over to hay and, you know, whatever remains here. This tree line, sheep like to chew on all that stuff as long as some of these leaves stay on for a while. You know, they'll feed off of that into late fall. But we're definitely at a point where we were not at last year. You know, this was all nice and green last year. And it really makes me revisit and, you know, quite honestly be thankful the fact that we got a bunch of hay baled this spring. You guys have not seen that video, check it out. I'll put a link above. But our neighbor came up and helped us out there big time by getting a ton of hay baled for us. So really no worries. I mean, obviously it kind of sucks not having green pasture. That's ultimately going to be your primary source of nutrition, and it's going to, you know, optimize the health of your animals more so than dried out hay. But if you don't have hay, well, you're set up for a tough winter. And, you know, feed is expensive, and obviously we don't want to necessarily give feed, being that we're trying to achieve a grass-fed sheep, grass-fed lamb. So hay is definitely critical for us, and it looks like it's going to be that type of year where we're going to be using quite a bit of it. At first I thought we'd have plenty of grazing land going into fall and winter. Well, things change very quickly, as you guys know. And then we come down to our water, and we got the product of a pig. Snapped off our PVC here, snapped off our PVC here. We had these little nipples on here. Pretty much drained this completely bone dry, so you can see I haven't been messing around with it, but I got to get in here and rework this so we have a little more of an automated water like we had going on. Took the pigs a long time to get used to this, but they were using it, and eventually I guess, well, it must have got low. Our ram pump has been kind of hit or miss with the lack of rain. You know, sometimes we have a consistent flow, other times not. And I guess my guess is Ziggy, he's a bully sometimes, probably got frustrated, snapped it right off, and well, now back to the drawing board. So what I'm gonna do with that, I'm just gonna put a normal ball valve back on like I had before. At least it gives me a source closer to the pigs than what I'm doing right now. Right now I'm over at the house, I'm filling it up with the hose and lugging it about, well, you guys can see the house over there. It's about 200 yards away. So it's not really fun carrying 5-gallon buckets of water that far. As the weather gets colder, it's gonna become less enjoyable. And then once snow hits the ground, well, that's gonna be miserable. So we got to plan accordingly. We got to get this stuff done and get it figured out, because at the end of the day, it's going to save me a lot of time and a lot of energy. And for what it's worth, this is still in the second paddock that the pigs were in. You can see it's still all cleared out, completely bare from what they were doing in here. The unfortunate part, they did girdle some of our trees, which means we're probably going to lose some of these. Not the end of the world. It can be thinned out a little bit. I just don't want to lose everything in here. It's interesting. They don't go after everything. So I'm not really sure what goes through the mind of the pig, why it picks and chooses what trees it's going to destroy. But it did get a few in here, as with the next paddock. Now the next paddock is fine because that is definitely the thickest out of all of them. So if we lose a few in there, again, not the end of the world. It could use some thinning anyway. It's just going to help for our development of our pasture later on. But this land, it's kind of crazy at this time of year how barren this is. Eventually, we'll get this and it'll start to grow back up. Again, you guys looking at this and thinking that we had these animals on here too long. It was by design. You could not walk through here if you're new to the channel. And now I can kind of walk straight through at any given point. So the pigs did their work. Next time we'll rotate them a little more frequently. And if you don't believe me, by looking at this, it does come right back. This is where they started. It comes back and, well, anything will really come up. But again, compared to what this was originally when we started fencing all this stuff in, completely clear compared to what it was. Obviously, we get all this stuff coming in here, and pigs will make very quick work because you can pretty much walk through here and it all just falls down anyway. But we got grasses coming back up. We did seed this earlier in the spring. We got some growth there, just a simple pasture mix. This will probably be our last move for the pigs this year. Before harvest, I'm looking at probably getting them in here, I don't know, maybe about a month or so. We'll get them over here and then finish them out. So that'll be the final move, and really the idea there is get them that last bit of fresh forage. They're still somewhere they're at. So pretty much when that goes bare, we'll get them moved. Hopefully that gives them a little extra boost, finish out at a nice weight. And then it's on to processing day, and we'll keep you guys updated on that, of course, as we always would. And I almost forgot to mention before we go look at our sheep, our rogue chickens, being that our chickens have pretty much lived with these guys, well, since we got pigs, they pretty much, took a liking to each other. And I spoke endlessly about how pigs protect them and so forth, and how, it's such a symbiotic relationship as far as chickens scratching in the manure and helping spread that and developing your land. Well, our chickens went completely rogue, being that this is quite a distance from their coop. They don't go to their coop. I'll see them roosting up in the trees here at night. And with that being said, egg production has pretty much halted for us, unfortunately, because obviously we can't crawl through there unless I want to get on my hands and knees, and I'm not really interested in doing that right now. So unfortunately for us, that means we're not getting eggs, which is really tough, considering we do eat a ton of eggs here. So it really makes me have to rethink kind of what we're going to do with our chickens. What I'm thinking now is building a new coop kind of right by our garden, right in our yard, and then also having some wild guys running around, because I do think there's a ton of benefits to this. Eventually, when I get the pigs back to that first pasture that I just showed you, the chickens, I guess we'll say, will go home and they'll start laying in the coop again. But until now, they have no interest when they can be kind of wild like this. So we'll get some more tame chickens, I guess you'll say. Probably build some sort of compost system in there or something similar to it. That way we have a controlled setting. I know I'm a big proponent of not having to feed your chickens or very minimally feed your chickens. But if you're providing, fresh material for them to work and essentially turn to compost, your feed input will be very low anyway. So that's probably the route I'm going to go. You guys will probably see me building a chicken coop here in the near future. Just another plan, another thought that's going on here in mid-September. So we're back on the other side. And before I show you the sheep, I do want to point out the chestnuts are coming in pretty nicely here. We do have 2 chestnut trees, which definitely want to take advantage of this year. It's definitely one of those seasonal things that as soon as those things start to drop and they open up, roasted chestnuts definitely are a nice little treat if we can get them before the squirrels do. So we'll be looking to get them here. We're still several weeks away from that, but just wanted to point it out as I was walking up. Lugging a bucket of water again, like we talked about. And now you'll get the true picture on kind of what's going on with our pasture drying out. These guys are always waiting for me when I come over. They all just kind of huddle up and just watch you as you come. I talked about this single strand last time, how it wasn't holding them. Well, I must have given myself a little bit of good luck, because since I moved them to this lower half, it's definitely held them. It's done the trick. It reads about 4,500, which is enough, but it also sits pretty low, as you guys can see here. So they can go over it if they want, but obviously it's doing the job. They must have hit it a time or two. We'll give them water. What's up, guys? Mary girl. That's Mary. She's our misfit that was supposed to be a Katahdin, turned to be wool sheep that we're gonna have to figure out what we want to do with. But everybody else is that of a Katahdin and doing very well. Brownie's one of our originals. She's always been one of the friendliest for us. We got Spot, our ram. It's getting to be a pretty nice size animal. We got him last summer. Brownie, or sorry, Coco, one of the original lambs here that we had on the farm, and that she was born to Brownie here. So we got names for them all. It's all fun. Try to keep it fun with the kids. They love to do the name thing. We also have some ducks. More so it's just for fun down in the yard. Kind of have them just tractoring along the yard right now. As you can see, all the way over there. And they'll fertilize the lawn kind of as we move them around. Where did I put your water? Wrong spot. Went to the mineral dish. Now they're really confused. So to prove this out again, it was close to 80 degrees today, like I said in the beginning. This was full. Sheep barely touched it, although then it just becomes stagnant. So we always dump it anyway. I know it seems a little tedious, but you'd rather just do the extra legwork, give them fresh water. Probably could let it go for a day or two, but I'm not willing to do that. Not gonna settle for, potential complacency and lead to a potential sick animal. Just do the right thing. It's right here by the house. So that's what we're gonna do. In the meantime, they are gonna just kind of follow me around because they want to know what I'm doing in here. But I did real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to show you, what the drought's kind of doing to this pasture. I know it might be hard to see on camera, but you're gonna have to trust me here. It has definitely changed the shade of green, to say the least. I wouldn't say it's brown, but there are definitely brown spots. There's an interesting thing that happens when you graze animals, ruminants, on healthy pasture that's getting plenty of rainfall. There's obviously going to be a growth cycle behind these animals. As they graze, things are going to be growing up kind of in between where they're not able to get to, and you're almost going to have a secondary layer of growth. Right now we don't have that, and as the animals are kind of trampling this stuff down, and rightfully, like I said, they're right here with me, but as they're trampling this stuff down, you can see it looks a lot more jagged. You can tell that animals have been in here, where a few weeks ago when we were grazing them in here, you couldn't tell a whole lot that they were actually making a lot of progress in here. But without that secondary layer of growth, pretty much what they're eating is what there is, and it leaves, whatever they choose not to have. So definitely makes it look a little more sparse on the upper side. Now they've been off of here for a good week or two, and again, it's the same type of deal. Even in a week or two, if you had any rainfall, you would be seeing this stuff, I guess, for lack of better scientific terms, you would see it actually kind of fluff up a little bit, and you would know that it's still growing, where right now, again, we're not getting it. So we'll see what happens. I actually got these guys off this upper part a little early to avoid any overgrazing situation. There is still grass up here, obviously, that they could graze. You know, I just didn't want to strip it down too much, running the risk that we do dry up like we have. So fortunately, we made the right call there. But that also is going to limit us down here with how much time we have left. My initial plan was to let them graze this a good bit and then get them off like we did up top. But our time frame, well, it may have shortened quite a bit now. So forgive me if I'm long-winded with that explanation, but hopefully that kind of illustrated the point to you. There's no rain in sight here, so it's kind of going to be one of those games you got to just kind of observe and, you know, see really the healthier pasture. Again, we don't want to overgraze, so worst case, we'll move them back across the road. That'll be an adventure, but that's why we got all this pasture space and, you know, all this land to graze these animals. So it likely will be a winter where we use a lot of hay bales. And before I sign off, I wanted to show you, for whatever reason, they destroy this shelter. I've fixed this thing probably about 3 or 4 times. If you don't know what it is, it's really kind of like a hoop house design out of electrical conduit with a tarp over it. I did put a video up. I'm gonna kind of put that up in the link to show you guys how I did it. I'm not completely finished in that video, but I'm at the point where I'm not so sure I would really recommend that build. I'm sure there's a way I could have sturdied this up a little more, but again, guys, the sheep are destroying it. You're not going to find a lot of people on YouTube telling you what they did was the wrong thing, but I promised you guys we were going to be honest with what's going on out here. I'm going to show you the good, bad, and the ugly, and this thing looks more like a pancake than it does a sheep shelter right now. So we got a new one on the way. We'll see what that entails. It's going to be more of like an ATV port, UTV port. So it's going to be larger, but hopefully a little bit more of a substantial structure. It's not going to be mobile like this one was, where it's more of like a sled. Look at them, they're pushing right against it even while it's down. But it won't be as mobile, but it'll at least get the job done. I shouldn't have to move it too often anyway, being that we do have a shelter on the other side that I can patch up. But such is life. That's what happens on your farm. Your animals are not always going to know how to take care of things. So it's all part of the learning, and we'll figure it out here. It's not the end of the world. Again, we don't get any rain anyway, so what are we sheltering them from? I have no idea at this point. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed our little walk around tonight. Middle of September update here on the farm, and we got a whole boatload of things to do this fall. So we'll be in touch soon, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we will talk soon. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.